Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, we're talking about a film that I have been anticipating. I'm a lover of horror, and this film intrigued me from the beginning because it was directed by Lee Daniels, who, if I'm not mistaken, has never done a horror film before. And it has an amazing cast. This one is called The Deliverance. And here's a quick synopsis. Upon moving into a new home, Ebony Jackson finds herself fighting for her life against mysterious forces that could tear her family apart. It's a battle of wills that will define Ebony's life and her faith. And again, directed by Lee Daniels, it stars Aubrey Day, Glenn Close, Andra Ellis-Taylor, Monique, Caleb McLaughlin, Demi Singleton, and Anthony Jenkins. And this is a story loosely, in a way, based off of the real life of Latoya Ammons, and I hope I'm saying her name right here. She was a mom who moved into a new home, and her family started exhibiting behaviors that would make you think that they were possessed. And a social worker came out, told her, no, the children were put on the act for you. And then, after they do this, just so happens a nurse and a police officer witnessed her son levitate out of bed, fly backwards out of that bed, and begin climbing up the wall backwards. And that's what led to the family being exorcised. As, again, it's weird with the mom that they didn't believe her until that happened, but for that to actually happen. And then we get this film based off of it. And I say loosely based, names have changed and things of that nature, but it is loosely based off of it. So when we're introduced to Ebony in this film, played by Aubrey Day, and we see that her and her kids have moved into a new residence, and with her mom, who happens to also be fighting cancer at this time, played amazingly by Glenn Close. I don't know who Glenn Close modeled this performance after, but she plays the perfect depiction, and not to offend, anybody. She plays the perfect depiction of the white woman who clearly deals with black men and has a mixed child, down to her accent, the way she talks, the way she dresses. They gave her the white woman who messes with black men haircut. They did everything in this movie, and Glenn absolutely nails it. But after a while, strange things start happening to her son, and then that's when her youngest son, and that's when the film takes off. That's when we get down the road of us seeing Aubrey Day play this struggling mom, trying to hold everything together on her own as she's battling her own eternal demons, not necessarily the spiritual kind, but just the forces that's driven her to a situation where she has issues with Child Protective Services with her kids, as we see her going through that. And then this new element comes in, and it kind of pushes her over the edge in a way, as creepy occurrences just keep on happening until we get the full-fledged to understanding exactly what the film's about. I'm being very vague because I'm not giving away anything, because this is a movie you need to see to really get the impact of it. I'll say this. For this to be Lee Daniels' first time doing a horror movie, he sets up the jump scares brilliantly in this film. He sets up the tension amazingly well in this film. That is what this film has going for it. You see a lot of films that deal with possession. Like, it's an ongoing theme, especially of recent years in horror films. But what's original about this is that we don't see this with black people in it. This is possibly the first possession film I can remember off the top of my head where it's directed by a black man. It's a majority black cast. Like, you don't see this type of representation in this genre. So when you're watching it and you're watching these characters move the way black people tend to move in films, them being wary of things, being suspicious of things, and all of those natures, and just the way he builds it off of that, the way he builds suspense, the way he builds the jump scare moments in this film are amazingly well done. It really caught me off guard, because normally when you get a director who's accustomed to doing dramas and things of that nature, horror is not the obvious leap to make. And he makes it, and he makes it perfectly well here by his ability to build tension. And that's the key part with these exorcist films, is that you have to build tension. A jump scare is great, but if it's without tension, if it's without getting the audience engrossed into what's going to happen, I think you fall flat. Here, a mixture with the score, with the cinematography, and with his direction here, it does a great job at making up for some of the shortcomings that the film has. Again, he does a great job at building tension, but we also can see while you're watching this film that it's certain shot selections that aren't the best, and you could tell they're selected by someone who's accustomed to doing dramas, and they're shot in a scope of a drama and not necessarily the scope of a horror film, and it can confuse you as an audience member, especially people who are accustomed to this genre, exactly what you're getting. But luckily, again, because of the tension and because of the score, like, it kind of makes up for those mistakes here and there. And again, when we get to possession films, in all honesty, you've seen one, you've seen them all. The thing that separates this one is because it's with Black people, but in all honesty, it goes down the exact same tropes of this genre. And at this point, I don't think we're looking for originality out of the exorcist drum genre. What we're looking for is execution, and that's what they have here. Along with Glenn Close giving an amazing performance, Aubrey Day gives an amazing performance. All the children in this film give solid performances. You kind of wanted a little bit more out of Caleb because he is the name that most people would know, and he's a face. When he's in Stranger Things, he's the face that most people would know. So you would kind of want a little bit more out of that character. But the young man, who I think that is Anthony Jenkins, who plays the youngest son in this film, is fantastic. He will blow you away because he is a catalyst for a lot of the tension and a lot of the spooky moments in this film. So he's able to pull off things just by the way he looks, and that really, really works wonders. Especially for the first two-thirds of this film, it works wonders the way they build tension with the children. So again, with the cast being so strong, not to mention Monique. Monique's not in this film as long as I would have liked to see this character in this film. And in a way, she kind of plays it as comic relief in the first couple of scenes that you see her in, before it transitions to something a little more serious, a little more deep down. But it kind of feels like it's deeper down in the realm of a dramatic performance. But then she has a moment in the third act that, when I say this film moves, and this speaks the way Black folks speak in films and the way Black folks think outside of films, of if they were watching this film, how they would react. She has some of those moments in this film that are perfect. Like, it's perfect timing. And that's what I mean here. Like, you can make up for the point that the third act is kind of a little sloppy because it hastens itself to a conclusion because it's paced so well in the first two-thirds, and that third act, it just feels like you needed to rush to get to a conclusion. And amazingly, the third act has a lot of CGI in it, like, which is kind of you expect from these type of films to have more practical effects, but here they were moments of CGI that were obviously CGI. Like, it didn't even look like it could be real. Like, so that is the flaw with the third act of it, but it's not a big enough flaw to necessarily take you out of the movie. It's just a big enough flaw for you to notice it. But again, because the performances are so strong in this film, because it's directed so well, you kind of make up for some of the misgivings. But again, it's expected in this genre of film, so you don't necessarily need to harp on, like, being extremely hard on a film that's in a genre that kind of follows all the same tropes back to the original Exorcist film. Like, all of them follow the same tropes here. But this one is just executed a lot better than more recent films in this genre, and it's acted beyond belief by an amazing cast. And I didn't even bring up Andra Ellis-Taylor, who's in this film, but her role is so minuscule in this film, they could have literally filled that with anybody, and it would not have mattered one bit. So what you're here for, in all honesty, is Aubrey Day and Glenn Close with this mother-daughter banter that they go back and forth with in this film that is phenomenal. And you're here for the young man. Again, I think it's Anthony Jenkins, who's a young man in this film, the youngest son in this film. He is a star in the making. How good he was in this film. He's the most creepy kid humanly possible now to me after this film. But he looks like a normal kid. Even when he comes on screen the first time, he just looks like a normal kid, a normal innocent kid. But with the progression of the film, and he gets creepier and creepier, as all the kids kind of do, but he just steals the show at that point in time in the film. And it gets to the point when he's on screen, even with these other titans, like you kind of draw all your attention to him because he can flip it in a second from the most innocent kid in the world to something that just looks overtly possessed and can creep you out completely. It's magnificent the way he is in this film, and again, the way the whole cast really is in this film. Even ones that you kind of wish you would got more from, they're still pretty good in this film. So, The Deliverance, brought to you by Netflix. This one releases in select theaters on August the 16th, and then it will debut on Netflix on August the 30th. Out of a possible 10, I am going to give The Deliverance an 8.5 out of 10. Again, no film in this genre will be perfect. All of them will have its flaws. Again, at this point, because this genre is full of the same tropes in films, what you're here for is the execution. And Lee does an amazing job at executing this film. While at times it does feel like he maybe reverted back to filming the dramas that he's accustomed to doing, but his ability to build the proper amount of tension in this film is what carries this movie, along with, again, winning performances by everybody involved. But check it out when it drops. Let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.